I believe Kickstarter put something on their blog saying that $25 was the most popular backing level, 50 still being reasonably popular.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, looking at the statistics, with ours, our most popular reward is actually our $30 one. And our second is actually our $80 one. Go figure. As I say, our $80 limited edition hardback reward, that sold out within a day. That was for $80. So, so that clearly shows that if you've got a good product and you have a certain level of exclusivity with it, people are definitely willing to pay for that. And I definitely think that when you're setting up your project, you shouldn't undersell the possibility that if you've got a good product, people are willing to pay more for something which is limited, which is exclusive, and which no one will necessarily be able to get again.
That certainly seems to be much stronger, I would say, in the Kickstarter community than, the average person off the street. I don't know, maybe put it down to being a sort of creative, slightly geeky kind of community. Oh, I'm going to get flames for this one. But,
you look at. I come from a collector's background, anyhow. I collect film props, film costumes. I also help people with their militaria collections, military antiques and things like that. So I have an idea of, just how rewarding it can be to have something which there's only so many of in the world. So if you're doing a book and there's only going to be 100 of this book in the world, and lots of people want it, there's a premium to be attached to that as well. As it is, we didn't really attach much of a premium to that in our reward system. As far as we were concerned, we just wanted to get the book out there. And so, we're not exactly getting all that much profit from that. We just wanted to be able to allow, an enhanced method of reading our story.
Sure. So, okay, given that, when you launched the campaign, you really didn't have any idea, you were saying, that it was going to be quite as popular as it was. And given that most people launching campaigns are going to be in a fairly similar position, hoping for the best, but at the same time knowing that the worst is possible too, how would you go about balancing that kind of the numbers you want to put out on limited edition items? How do you balance that with not knowing how popular your project is going to be, or how would you next time?
Well, what we ended up, we were having a bit of a headache after the first week because we'd sold out of the hardbacks within 2 days.
Oh, terrible headache.
Yeah, it's the best kind of problem to have. I'm not going to lie. It is definitely the best kind of problem to have. But there you are. You've got lots of people saying, I want this item. And as things stand, it's limited. There's no way that you can offer it again. You can't just go, oh, let's do some more. Because that defeats the entire point. You've gone out of your way to offer a limited item. You can't then just go back on yourself and say, let's add another 100 to the run. Because those people who have then already backed you on the basis of getting something that's 100 only, they'll get upset. They'll be, you'll be diminishing the value of their product, and you'll be abusing their trust essentially. So we had this terrible headache trying to work out, okay, we want to release, we want to release more hardbacks. We want to also release volumes 2 and 3 in hardbacks. Again, our initial project was intended to support only the first volume. We weren't expecting to be able to pay for all 3, which we're now in a wonderful position where we can do that. But that wasn't part of our initial game plan. We weren't planning on being able to get that kind of money.
Were you originally thinking okay, if we do get number 1 funded, were you thinking of coming back to Kickstarter to try and fund number 2 and eventually number 3 afterwards?
It was a consideration, but at the same time, that was something we didn't necessarily want to rely on. If you see what I mean. I've seen a lot of books come back. They've done their first volume. They've essentially treated Kickstarter as a method of getting their pre-orders out. They release the first volume, great success. Then they go, okay, well, guys, look out for the Kickstarter for volume 2. We didn't necessarily want to rely on that, partly because of the fact that that essentially turns Kickstarter into an e-commerce storefront, which we've already talked about earlier on. That, some people say it's a good thing, some people don't mind it. I don't mind it all that much, but I think that that to some extent belittles other projects which really need that one time and one time only. It's not like film projects go out there and do it for the sake of getting the money to make the film, and then when they finally got the film done, they try and do another Kickstarter to cover the cost of printing the DVDs. That wasn't really something we were hoping to do. We wanted to be able to do the Kickstarter. If we'd only raised 10, 11, 12 grand, maybe that would have been a consideration when it came to Volume 2. At the same time, I'd be thinking, well, a lot of the stuff that we'd be releasing, we'd want to release via our own methods anyhow. We'd like to see the book solicited. We'd like to be able to get it out there. So if we're releasing it for sale on our own websites or whatever else, do we really need to do a Kickstarter? Surely a Kickstarter would be defeating the point. And again, e-commerce storefront. I don't know. I don't necessarily feel so good about that. For a one-time thing, I think that's great, because that allows books that would otherwise not be published to get out there. But the idea of going back for repeat business over and over again, that doesn't really sit all that well with me.
I thought it was really interesting how when you guys got that much money for a project that was ostensibly to fund part 1, that you didn't just sort of say, well, thanks very much for 30,000 for part 1. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people might have gone for that, but at the same time, we were receiving, because we'd already laid it out in the plan on the Kickstarter when we talked about our story on the Kickstarter. We already know how many issues we're going to create. We already have our story laid out. We already know where we're going with it.
But you didn't have the second and third volumes laid out explicitly as stretch goals, though, did you?
No, oh, definitely not. We knew where we wanted to go with the story, so we knew there were going to be 9 issues, 3 volumes. That's the framework that we've still got in mind even now. Admittedly, as stretch goals, we've created extra content. How we're going to work that into the books, I'm not too sure. We'll come to that at some later stage. We'll work it out. But when we're approaching it, it's like, well, okay, well, we've got a lot of interest now from a lot of people seeing mention of these other 6 issues and these other 2 volumes, and they're constantly asking, how do we get them? And it seemed, I don't know, it didn't seem right to withhold that to some extent. If we've talked about it, why would we not offer it? And if there's one thing that I think sells your Kickstarter, it's being earnest and being open. And if you've got a clear idea of what it is you want to offer, and it's no different with tech, if you've got a concept in tech, you don't go, like the Ouya as an example, you don't go, oh yeah, we're going to sell part of the Ouya, then we're going to sell some peripherals later on. You need to run a second Kickstarter for the peripherals. You don't. You come out with your idea. There's your idea. It's in front of you. You either buy it or you don't. And the idea is complete there in front of you. If we've said that we're doing 9 issues and we're doing 3 volumes, why shouldn't we offer that extra content as additional rewards and things like that? If people want to support us through the length and breadth of this, why wouldn't we offer it? At the end of the day, if we're going to release it through our own website and everything else, and we're going to go down that route, what harm is there to do that? So, I certainly think that if we'd not offered the additional issues and everything else, we wouldn't necessarily have reached the 30 grand as it is right now. I don't think we'd necessarily have reached $30,000. That's definitely helped us because we've been open and because people have the access to the full project. Because they have access to the full story, they're more inclined to get behind us, which I think is great. Speaking as the writer, and this is essentially my creation to some extent, knowing that people really want to go out of their way to try and find out about my story and read my story, that's really rewarding. And I think that a lot of the success that we've managed to gain from all this wouldn't necessarily have come about if we hadn't been open about it, if we hadn't talked about how big a story it is and offered it openly the way we have done. Kickstarter is about goodwill. You know, Kickstarter isn't about buying things. It's not like a shop. Kickstarter is about goodwill and about making the extraordinary happen for people who are dedicated and who are up for the challenge. Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that I am. But it's the thing. You enter Kickstarter and you put yourself out on the shop front and you say, "This is something that I've poured my heart and soul into. Do you want it or not?" And when you open yourself up to that, that takes balls, you know. Yeah, that takes that takes serious dedication to be willing to parade yourself that way. And I think people on Kickstarter see that and respect that and are willing to acknowledge that by putting their money towards it. But not necessarily it's just a case of, yes, you have fought well, here is your $25. It's not quite that. But
well, I think people can empathize. It's like everyone's got some dream deep down, and to be able to see someone else putting their heart on their sleeve, putting their dream out to the public, not even just to their friends and family. I think we all know that if we were in that position, we would desperately want for people to treat us kindly. And
do you ever watch Dragon's Den? Yeah, I mean that's a perfect example right there. You got a panel of multi-millionaires who are sat in a room waiting to judge you. Not I'm there waiting to make a man's dream happen or make a woman's life change radically for the better. I am here to judge a person, and if they are judged to be found wanting, I will embarrass them on international TV.
Dramatically.
Yeah, with dramatic music. If, however, I think that they are worthy of my interest, I will toy with them for 5 minutes while I offer them slightly less than what they'd ask for. And eventually we'll meet a business arrangement and everything will be fine. That's not warm. That's not kind. That's not positive. That's business. Business is cold. By contrast, Kickstarter, it's like Dragon's Den, but instead of having a panel of 4 or 5 businessmen who are there to judge you, you have a community of hundreds of thousands who are willing to show you a kindness and are willing to support endeavor at its purest form. And I love that. That is what Kickstarter is about, and that's the one true thing that when I think about Kickstarter, I absolutely adore. And I think about what we went through to get that Kickstarter going. We agonized over how much money the Kickstarter was going to be for. We're busy thinking, well, if we want to do this print run, it'll cost that much, and we ran numbers for days trying to work out how best to structure it. And then after that, it was we've run out of rewards. How are we going to do that? It's constant firefighting, trying to find the best possible solution. And the reason why we are willing to put that effort in is because of the kindness of people, the compassion of people, and the willingness of people to engage with us and to show support for us. You go into a room in Dragon's Den, you don't get that at all. What you get is this cold panel of people who are there to mock you if you fail and who are there to screw you if you are potentially successful. Kickstarter is the exact opposite.